Hi. Show of hands. Who in here has heard the public speaking and presentation wisdom that you should always start out your presentation with a question or some kind of audience participation? All right, now that we've got that out of the way, I want to speculate with you for a minute on why I was invited to speak here today. I am the director of this community's largest annual fundraising effort. Between now and January, me and the team that I work with will raise over $6 million to support social service programs in Brevard County. We will do it. It's not a question, we will. And I'm 34 years old. If this blessed event had been 2 weeks earlier, I could still tell you that I was 33. But I'm 34 years old, and I have, in my career, helped to raise, I won't take full credit, I have helped to raise over $72 million for Brevard County social programs. Blows my mind that I can even say that. I am possibly, not possibly, I'll own it, I'm a better than average public speaker, and half of that really is just not being afraid of public speaking. There's a university, Chapman University, that does an American fear study every year. They survey Americans about what they are most afraid of, and every year, public speaking beats out death as something that Americans are most afraid of. So I tell you, we live in a country where people are literally more afraid of public speaking than they are of their own death. So there's that. And I'm a storyteller. This is interesting stories from interesting women, and I have made my career out of telling stories and inspiring people to give to United Way with absolutely nothing tangible in return. And so there's lots of reasons, but I want to tell you what it feels like to be me standing here up amongst all of these powerful women in front of this audience, in this venue, on this stage for this organization. It feels like, and I Googled it, the world's smallest mammal is an Etruscan shrew. So I feel like an Etruscan shrew in the company of, I would say, much larger mammals, but it's not nice to refer to other people as large mammals, especially other women, so I will just say giants. I am an Etruscan shrew in the company of giants. And I wish that I could tell you that I've come to this awesome place in this awesome career and these awesome accomplishments because I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I had a blueprint, and I went after it with single-minded determination, but I can't tell you that. When I look back at the weird family circus cartoon that is my life, do you know the ones I'm talking about, where they have to go from the school bus to their house, and it's 10 feet, but that's kind of what my life feels like, and it's like a cosmic series of wonderfully fortuitous accidents that brought me here. But there are many lessons to be learned along the way, and there are reasons why I'm here that are my own. And so I wanted to share some of those things with you today. But I live every day in constant state of self-doubt and insecurity and faking it until I make it. And I tell you this not to make you question what the hell kind of leadership conference you signed up for, but to tell you, but because I know that the chances are astronomically high that I am not alone in feeling that way, and that other people in the audience, women in particular, as you've heard, are probably struggling with the same crippling self-doubt and insecurities. And it was a really big deal for me to learn that I wasn't alone in feeling this way. There's this concept called imposter syndrome that I learned about. Somebody sent me a TED Talk, and I watched it, and it was the most amazing thing. And it's the idea that people they feel like imposters in the place that they're at, in whatever level of success they have attained. They look around the room at their peers and the other people who are successful around them, and they think that they're the imposter in the room. I don't belong here among all of these other people who clearly have it together. They know what they're doing. They're confident and competent, and I don't know what I'm doing. I am faking it, and one day everybody will learn that I have no idea what I'm doing, and my whole entire world will crumble down around me. And I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so familiar. And it was this most mind-blowing thing when I realized that I wasn't the only one who felt that way. And when I realized that this is an actual phenomenon, they say research shows that maybe 70% of us actually feel that way. So if you don't feel like an imposter, you're actually the strange one. Take that. But when I realized that these were just feelings that I had and this like crazy, stupid little voice in my head and not a reflection of my actual reality, then I could combat that. Now that I know that I'm not actually completely incompetent and that it's just a feeling that I'm struggling with, then that's something that I can combat. I can own that. I can take that, and what's more is I can talk about it. I can bring it to light and share it with other people who may be feeling the same thing. And now and make that my story. Though this is my story now. This is my voice, not the voice in my head. It's my voice, my inside voice, my outside voice, and I write my story. And it's not the little voice inside of me that tells me that I'm nothing that writes my story. It's me, and I can own my accomplishments and be proud of them and feel like I deserve a place at the table. That was a really big deal for me. But I wanted to talk about storytelling because that's really important to me. And I want to just back up and kind of tell you how I got to United Way in this like strange, crazy family circus cartoon. I'm a transplant to Brevard County, like probably a lot of people in this room. I spent my family moved a lot as I was growing up. I spent most of my life in Montana and different places in Alaska, very tiny rural towns, and I graduated from college at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I keep waiting. No. I keep waiting someday somebody's going to yell, "Go Nanuks!" And then I'll know I'm not alone, but I guess I'm the only one. I'm ever the only Nanuk in the room. But I finished my coursework for my degree in February, and it was going to be May before I got my diploma. So I had some time to kill, and I have family in Brevard County, so I came down here for a visit because, here are my words, if you do not have to be in Fairbanks, Alaska in February, you do not be in Fairbanks, Alaska in February. So I came down here for a visit, and while I was here, I met some folks at United Way. And they were just developing an entry-level position for somebody to support some of their fundraising efforts. And I was an entry-level recent college graduate looking for a job. And so then, of course, it made perfect sense for me to pack up everything I own in my little blue Ford Taurus and drive 5,000 miles across the country for a nonprofit job that paid $20,000 a year, because that makes sense. While I listen to the voice of crippling insecurity in my head, I clearly don't listen to the voice that says, there are other options for you to take. But 5,000 miles I did, and I ended up here. And I tell you, it was really challenging at first. It was March when I accepted the job offer, and it was the middle of June when I moved down here in the summer from Alaska to the pit of hell of heat. And that was really difficult. And I didn't know anybody. And I started out in a job it's hard for all college students, I think, when you leave college and to have, work for the first time. It's like, you have to go to work every day. It's not like college classes where, you need to get your degree, but I'm tired or I'm not feeling good from last night, and I'll just catch up on the notes from somebody else. You can't do that when you're working. You gotta actually go every day. It's a whole culture shift, to make matters worse, I wasn't totally bought into the whole United Way thing yet. I remember the first day that I started at United Way, and the lady that was helping me get through all my HR paperwork handed me a United Way pledge form. And I swear to you, I looked at her, and she asked because she wanted to offer me the opportunity to start giving right out of my paycheck right away to United Way. And I was like, I'm sorry, you paying me what you want me to give out of so that some of that will come back to my pay? I don't, no, thank you. Anyway, so to my everlasting shame as a fundraiser for United Way now, I said no the first time I was asked to give to United Way. So I understand how that goes on the other side of the pledge form. But but I started to, part of the onboarding process at United Way is getting to know what we do. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with United Way, we raise a lot of money in the community. We work with companies who have massive fundraising efforts. Employees can give right out of their paycheck to support programs in our community. We fight for the education and the health and the financial stability of every person. We support numerous programs at an incredible array of nonprofits in Brevard County. We have our own internal initiatives that those dollars support. And so part of the onboarding process at United Way was to go out and visit the agencies. And so I started learning about social service programs in our community and how they're helping people every day and they're making a difference. And I listened to nonprofit directors talk about how they couldn't do what they do if it wasn't for the money and the dollars and the support that they get from United Way, and how impactful these dollars and this support is to this work and helping people and making a difference in our community. And I started to buy in a little bit. And I promised you the next time I got a pledge form, I filled it out. I sure filled out that puppy really quickly. But I started to believe. And then an opportunity came up. When I started at United Way, I was in this very entry-level coordinator position. And about 6 months after I started at United Way, a position came open in the campaign department. And that really seemed like fun because the campaigners get to go out and they work with companies and they meet people all the time and they do public speaking, and it seemed really exciting and I wanted this job. But I was still just a baby, and I felt terribly guilty about leaving the department that I had started out in, but I applied for this job, and I had to do the whole interview, and it was terrifying. It was more terrifying even than public speaking. And I sat down with who was going to be my boss at the time, and she told me she was going to offer me the job. She wanted me to take the position, and that was really exciting. I'm like, yes, I'm so excited. And unbeknownst to any of the other players in the story, the person who had vacated the position in front of me had told me how much she was making, which was a gift. It was an incredible gift that I can only now look back on and appreciate, because she wanted to set me up to not be, I won't say taken advantage of, but she wanted to set me up from a position of strength to advocate for myself. And she set me up, and I will tell you now, I utterly failed. Because when my soon-to-be boss sat down and told me that she was moving me I was moving from a coordinator level position to a manager level position. Now, granted, these are nonprofit dollars that we're talking about, but it was an increase in responsibility. And so our boss, and for the sake of his anonymity, we'll call him Bob. Bob wanted to offer me, he wanted to give me a $500 pay increase for moving to this next level position, because he's looking out for our bottom line, right? Bottom line. That's right. And so even knowing what I knew, I had a whole plan. I had a range, a number that I was kind of hoping for. When she told me that, and my stomach sank, and I looked at her and I said, okay. Because so sorry for that. And then the most amazing thing happened. She looked at me and she said, if you had another number in mind, this would be a great time for you to tell me. And still, I said, no, it's not about the money. That's great. I'm really excited for this job. And she looked at me. If you had another number in mind, now would be the time to tell me. And still, I said, I don't really know anything about salaries here or ranges, and this is new. I know I just started. I'm only 6 months in, and I'm just so excited for the opportunity. It's not about the money. It's really not about the money. And she looked at me. She said, did you have another number in mind? And I said, well, maybe. I think I started crying at this point. The tears are running down my face, and she's handing me tissues, and I'm going, I had maybe like an idea of it, but I don't know anything about, and I just don't feel comfortable, and I don't think, did you have another number in mind? well, okay, yeah, it was kind of, I was like, thinking maybe this. And she said, all right, I will take that back to Bob. And that's how we ended it. And wouldn't you know it, one day later, she came into my office and she told me that I was getting exactly what I had asked for. But that was a really, after all that, that was a really incredible lesson because she taught me something really powerful. She taught me that we can advocate for one another. Both of the women who helped me through that, they taught me that we can advocate for one another. You don't have to let people struggle or let them accept what is less than what they are due or what they should expect. You can advocate for them. You can advocate for them and help them to become stronger. But more importantly, she made me advocate for myself. She didn't say, oh, well, he said this, but I don't agree, so I'm going to do this. She forced me to do it for myself. And that was an incredible lesson. And I won't forget it. And I didn't forget it because several years later, when I wasn't really being challenged in my role anymore, I actually went back and I asked for more responsibility and more pay to go with it. And wouldn't you know, I got exactly what I asked for. So you have to advocate for yourself. And more importantly, when you're out there and you see opportunities to advocate for other people, do it, because you never know the impact that it leaves on them. And that's how we all get better. That's how we all get stronger, is when we advocate for one another. And I am a really big believer in that. So I'm at United Way now. I'm out here. I'm learning about all the statistics and matching dollars and the number of programs that we support. And this is, really compelling stuff. Our overhead is low and blah, 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 more numbers and statistics and how long we've been in the community. And I'm starting to, get my public speaking feet under me. And then something really incredible happened. I went and I delivered Meals on Wheels for the first time. It was a Saturday Meals on Wheels. It was a special meal. The Meals on Wheels program is typically Monday through Friday, and what they found is that some of those seniors who don't have other resources are saving up pieces of their meals throughout the week so that they can have something to eat on the weekend. And we get volunteer groups that can go out and deliver Saturday Meals on Wheels. And I went with another group, and we were delivering in a neighborhood in Cocoa. And it was a kind of a lower income neighborhood, and the first house we drove up to was very dilapidated. The paint was peeling off, and the front stoop was kind of like, we went up to the door, and we had our meal, and we knocked, and you have to knock really loud, and you have to yell, "Meals on Wheels," because they might not hear you, and so you have to, and you wait a minute, because sometimes it takes them a few minutes to get to the door. We waited, and then we knocked again, "Meals on Wheels!" And then finally the door opened, and it was this tiny elderly man. And I'm not making this up. He was carrying his prosthetic leg because he didn't want to take the time to put it on. He was afraid that he would miss us and we would leave with his meal. And we followed him back into his kitchen, and we set down the meal, and we chatted with him for a few minutes. Really nice man, and asked him if he needed anything else. And then we were turning around to leave to go finish the rest of our deliveries, and he stopped me, and he looked me right in my eyes, and he grabbed my hand in both of his, and he said, "Thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much. God bless you for this meal. Thank you." And it just twisted something inside of me. And it hurt, that the gratitude from this man for this meal that might be the only one he gets all weekend, and it broke my heart to think of that being my parent or grandparent or, God forbid, me someday. And this whole concept of what I was raising money for changed. And so when I started going out and talking to groups, I started to tell that story. I talked about the person that you were helping, the person, not the statistics and the numbers, but the real person. And the most amazing thing happened. People started listening. They actually listened, and not only did they listen, but they did a very good job of pretending like they were really interested in it. And they started to give more. And I realized something really powerful is that people want to hear stories. They want to hear about people. Numbers are all well and good, but it's the stories that make the difference. And I started collecting them. Everywhere I went, when I visited agencies, I would learn about people and clients and success stories, and those were the ones that I started to tell. And not only did it help people and audiences respond to me better, but it did something amazing for myself. Suddenly, this stopped being a job and it started being a mission. Now I'm not just going out and peddling some nonprofit goods. I need to raise money because of all these people and these stories, and we need to do this. We need to make it happen for them. I started to really believe in what I was selling, and that was when this became not a job and more of a career. And that's when I decided that I wanted to stay, and this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference, and that's how I ended up here. And I want to tell you, storytelling is not new to me, it's not new to you, it's not new to anybody, and it's certainly not new to nonprofits. Any nonprofit marketing blog in the entire universe talks about the importance of storytelling. But storytelling isn't just for nonprofits. Storytelling is for for-profits and entrepreneurs and small companies and big companies and CPA firms and janitorial sales companies. Storytelling is for everybody because storytelling helps you to get at people's emotions. And that's important because it is a fact. It is a fact that anytime somebody starts a sentence with "it is a fact," that scientists might disagree with your definition of the word fact. But still, I tell you, it is a fact that people make decisions with their right brain. It doesn't matter how left brain, analytical, rational you think you are. I promise you, it is your emotional right brain that is driving your decision making. Now, you may use your left brain to justify that decision, but let's face it, your right brain has already said which way things are going, and that's how it's going to be, and then your left brain's just scrambling to make sense of it, make sense of that. And that is how that works. So storytelling is important because it helps you to get at the emotional side of things. It helps you to connect with people's emotions, and that is how the decision making happens. So when you want to sell something, when you want to engage a new client, when you want to have somebody spend money with your business or you for any reason whatsoever, storytelling is your friend. And I will give you a couple of examples. One of them is one of my favorite advertising campaigns of all time, Got Milk, right? Everybody knows that one. In that particular campaign, they don't tout the nutritional benefits of milk and how much calcium it has and how strong it is for your bones. They put you in the situation where you imagine yourself waking up one day in the afterlife surrounded by this pristine white kitchen and countertops, gleaming countertops covered with the most delicious, ooey, warm, gooey, buttery chocolate chip cookies. And the feeling that you would have of euphoria as you devoured these chocolate chip cookies. And then you realize that you're thirsty and you go to the refrigerator and you open it up and it's full of cartons of ice cold milk. And then you grab the carton because you know that nothing is as good after a chocolate chip cookie as ice cold milk, and it's empty. And the next one is empty, and the next one is empty. And you know when you are watching this commercial that this is terrible. This is the worst set of circumstances ever imaginable, and I defy the person who watched that commercial and didn't go and need a glass of milk afterwards. It works, people, I'm telling you. It's the storytelling. You have to put people in a story. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a story about your product. It can be a story about you. And a prime example of that is if you live anywhere in Central Florida, you have to be familiar with Morgan & Morgan, who did not pay me to mention them up here on the stage today. John Morgan, for the people. But there's a radio ad that they've had going where he talks about how he became an attorney and how he watched his brother suffer a catastrophic car accident and how he witnessed his mom, in his opinion, being completely taken advantage of by the system and by the insurance companies. And he vowed from that day forward that he would fight to make sure that never happened for anybody else ever. And now that's what he does. He fights the man, he fights the insurance companies to protect people like us and like his mom and like his brother. Now, regardless of how you feel about attorneys or any kind of attorney in general, that is an incredibly compelling story. And that has nothing to do with the quality of his legal services and all about how he got there. So I challenge you as you sit here in whatever role you're in your company, whether you're in sales and marketing, whether you're the business owner or the CEO, or even if you are in a small department and all of your customers are internal, consider what your story is. because you have one. I know that you have one. And if you don't, then certainly you can get involved in the community and find that story. Your story, whether it's a story about your product or how you got to where you are, that story is compelling, and it will make people listen, and it will open doors for you, and it's your little inroad into people's emotional side that will help them make decisions that benefit you. Secret. Don't tell anyone. And there's one other story that really meant a lot to me as I was making my way through my nonprofit career. We met a man named Adam Shepard. Adam Shepard is an author, and he came and spoke at one of our kickoffs one year. He wrote a book called Scratch Beginnings, and it all started when he was in college. He had a fight with his professor who told the class that the American dream was dead. She said, the American dream is dead. You can no longer start with nothing and achieve personal and professional and economic success. And he didn't agree. He fought it with every part of his being, so when he graduated, he was on a mission to go and prove that professor wrong. He swore off, he disavowed all of his connections and his education, and he got on a train with $25 in his pocket and a backpack with a little sleeping bag and some goods, and he got off the train at a random stop, and he refused to use any of his connections or his education or his employment history. He started out with nothing and had a goal of, within 1 year, having a job, a place to live, a car, and $1,500 in his bank account. And it's a really incredible story. And he got there. I think it only took him 7 months to achieve all of those goals, but the story it was no longer about achieving those goals. It was about all of the people that he met along the way. And he talked about living in a homeless shelter and trying to find a job, starting out at day labor, and then trying to find employment without any address or a phone number, and how difficult that was. And he talked about the people that he met along the way. And in one in particular story stuck out with me about a man in the homeless shelter with him who'd finally been searching for months and finally attained permanent employment. And as soon as he got that employment paperwork, he immediately went out and he rented an apartment at 75% of his monthly income, and then walked down the road to Rent-A-Center and rented and fully furnished his apartment from Rent-A-Center. And not because he wasn't a smart man, but because he literally had no concept of the idea of budgeting, and just because you have a paycheck now doesn't mean you can afford everything and anything that you want. And I think back on that story and his experiences, and it brings me to, I think, what is one of the most powerful lessons that this career has taught me, and the most powerful gift is gratitude. And you may be sensing a theme here among our speakers today, but if anything, this role in this community has given me an almost overwhelming sense of gratitude, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, because I see it every day, I know where my life could be if I didn't have all of the incredible support that I've had for my whole life. And that's not to say we had everything. My mom was a lower level government employee, and my dad stayed at home, and they raised 3 kids, and we didn't have a whole lot, but I had 2 caring parents who had high expectations for me. I never once questioned whether or not I would go to college, or whether or not I would be able to work, or whether I could function, or sit at a dinner table with other professionals and know what silverware to use. You know what I mean? All these things that I take for granted, I understand now that I take them for granted, that we all take them for granted, and blessed are we who can take them for granted. But I think that like Holly said before me, there are incredible benefits to feeling gratitude. There's this growing body of research that shows that when you feel gratitude, it helps your mood, it helps your ability to exercise, it helps, it improves libido, it helps your sleep. It does all of these incredible things for you. Gratitude is a powerful, powerful elixir. And when you are out there considering your life and where you're at, I would ask you to consider what areas and what places you have to be grateful for. The people in your life who've helped you along the way. The places where you know you might be if you hadn't had the support that you have. the friends, the acquaintances, and like Holly said, it's the little things. It's the little things as well as the big things. It's, for me, craft beer and mint chocolate chip ice cream, although not together. Different times. So much gratitude. Mascara, like under eye concealer, like little things that I'm so grateful for, and big things too. I'm grateful for the incredible friends. I'm grateful for the other people around me who have kids and whose lives are falling apart around them, and they're honest with me, and we can be honest together because it's hard, and we got to lift each other up, right? I'm grateful for mentors. I'm grateful for my previous boss who taught me to self-advocate and told me today that she thought I should talk about self-advocacy because she thinks that I'm good at that, and she has no idea that she taught me how to be that way. And I'm grateful for the friends in my life who teach me what it is to be strong and to be caring, and to my friend who struggled for years to get pregnant and fought with infertility and shots and hormones and 2 painful rounds of IVF and the amazing joy of becoming pregnant, only to lose that pregnancy at the end of her first trimester, and who 6 weeks later came to my baby shower to celebrate for me the things that she didn't have for herself. There are incredible people in our lives that do so much for us, and you need to own that, to find that, to swim in the gratitude until your fingers get all pruny. Because if you do, I promise you it will do amazing things for you. It will help in physical and emotional and mental ways that you cannot even conceive of it, and you don't have to take my word for it because it's science.